So, first things first, as most of you know, Pharrell Williams is the current creative director of Louis Vuitton. This is a role that he's had since 2023. I'm sure most of you remember the saga around Pharrell being hired. Around the time everyone was speculating who would take over Louis Vuitton, especially when it comes to, who would be the right replacement, who could achieve what Virgil Abloh did. We saw names like Grace Wells Bonner, Martine Rose, all designers that I'm really a big fan of. And then in between, we then got to see Kid Super do an interim design collection. So we started to think that Kid Super was going to be the creative director until it was announced that Pharrell Williams ended up being hired. And why that's very interesting, it's funny enough, when LVMH was in talks with Pharrell Williams initially, Pharrell Williams actually put Nigo forward and told them that Nigo would be the best man for the job, which is so interesting because now it's full circle where they have collaborated for many years. I mean, Pharrell Williams and Nigo have collaborated since the 2000s. I mean, they've done collaborations, whether it's or made brands together even, whether we're talking about Billionaire's Boys Club, Icecream, which is the diffusion line. They've worked on things like Human Made. So really, they've had a very nice bromance over the years, and they've loved working with each other, and they've always had collaborative efforts. They even collaborated with Louis Vuitton a few times when they made the Millionaire sunglasses. And so I remember when Pharrell Williams was hired, people were like, he hasn't even done anything. What's the connection to Louis Vuitton? But it's like, he's done collaborations with Louis Vuitton before in collaboration with Nigo. So very, very interesting backstory. And it's funny because when you look at a lot of Pharrell Williams runaway shows at Louis Vuitton, the first ones that come to mind for me are like his debut collection, for example, things like that. You start to see that, and a lot of us used to say this, right, that it seemed like Nigo had a hand put in some of these collections. It almost looked like Nigo had big influence and you could see it there. It was almost like Nigo was on the creative team. And so it is kind of interesting and also weird that now they are just openly saying, yeah, we collaborated on this collection, when, in my opinion, a lot of the collections look like Pharrell might have filtered the ideas through Nigo. Now, Nigo might not have designed these collections, to be honest, but it does seem like almost Pharrell was on the phone to Nigo asking him, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And that's how you get to this point. I think Pharrell Williams' Louis Vuitton has been very interesting to me. I think that Pharrell Williams designs really amazing accessories. I think of the speedies that he's created, these really soft but colorful speedies over the years that I find really interesting. It's cool. It's really, really cool. And I've seen more men wearing, especially because men will normally wear the big speedies because it looks like luggage, but they don't wear the small ones because it's seen as a bit feminine, especially by straight men who have issues with their sexuality. They conflate wearing a small bag with them being gay or some stuff like that. So what I've noticed through Pharrell Williams doing these bags, these speedy bags, he's made them trendy for men to wear. And that's what Louis Vuitton wants. He's there for a job. He's there to sell bags. He's there to sell accessories. And I think he's doing his job well. I've seen more men wearing these than I've ever seen men wear speedies in my entire life. And they're interesting. They're fun. These sort of structureless, shapeless, soft leather, really nicely constructed bags. And I have a lot of experience with these bags. And as much as I say that, quality for a lot of these luxury brands are really horrible, I can say with confidence that these bags specifically, at least the ones that I have experience with, are very well made, extremely well made. And that's commendable. I think a lot of Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton is really well made. I've seen a lot of the runway pieces in stores. It's really well made. And I think that's a good thing in a fashion market where everyone is cutting corners, everyone is just trying to have profit margins over everything. And I wonder if that's a very deliberate thing coming from Pharrell Williams, that he wants things to be made a certain way. He wants things to, be created to a certain level and a certain quality. Because he has experience in fashion. He might not be, the most revolutionary, innovative designer. However, he's made multiple brands, so he knows about production. He knows what quality should be like. He's probably had experience with factories that make really high quality things. So he does have expertise in that sense, because I can already hear the people like, what does Pharrell know about quality? I'm sure he knows more than most people that have never entered a factory in their entire life before. So I think he actually would know a lot. But moving on, looking at some other Pharrell collections, something I found a bit strange about Pharrell's collections is he kind of just picks one theme and goes with it. Of course, his debut collection, we saw a lot of the military camouflage prints. We have a specific focus on certain other prints. He had this collection which had nautical vibes and nautical inspirations. This is pre-fall 2024. Then we had, of course, the fall winter 2024 collection, which was more Western inspired, and we saw the cowboy boots, which is very interesting because it's very different to what we're used to seeing from Louis Vuitton outside of maybe Virgil Abloh, because Virgil Abloh did his own sort of Western inspired collection, and a lot of people were comparing and contrasting the show with Virgil Abloh's version, especially with the cowboy boots and stuff like that. This is one of the collections that I actually enjoyed the most, and when talking about Prada, it kind of seems like menswear is very much going in this Western aesthetic direction. I don't know what the reason for this is, but it seems to be a thing that's happening. And you can start to identify very specific house codes when you look at Pharrell's work at Louis Vuitton. I think a massive focus is the damier print. And the damier print is very interesting for him to focus on because if you think of the time of Virgil Abloh actually didn't really focus much on the damier print. The only time, or at least the first time, he was like, okay, let me really focus on the damier print was when he had his collaboration with Nigo, where he did that collection with Nigo's, this collection, right, with these looks. So it wasn't until this collection, in collaboration with Nigo, that we saw Virgil Abloh start to really use the damier print a lot. So it's interesting that Pharrell Williams loves it and is using it a lot more than we definitely saw from Virgil Abloh because it allows a different visual aesthetic from what we're used to seeing as far as Louis Vuitton menswear goes. So yeah, damier print, a lot of the shows, they kind of have the same themes also. We see with the Pharrell Williams shows, you see people pushing trunks every season, which is him trying to bring through this idea that don't forget that Louis Vuitton's history is as a luggage maker. They make travel goods. That's what we're going back to, the history and the essence of what this brand is supposed to represent, right? So it makes a lot of sense why he does that. Let's see. Pharrell is a weapon of attraction and mass influence, and he's succeeding. It was like how I think Helmut Lang got Travis Scott on one time, but that didn't go too well. Yeah, and I think Pharrell, apart from him just being a super, super famous person, he can tap into loads of people that most people couldn't tap into because these people are genuinely his friends. Like when you see LeBron James on a campaign or Rihanna, these are legit his friends. He had Rihanna in a campaign when she was pregnant. I don't know if it wasn't Pharrell, Rihanna would do that for many other people, to be honest. I don't think she would have. So yeah, and then of course, one of the more recent collections was a Spring Summer 25 show. This was obviously the celebration of many different nations. We also saw football and sports inspirations and a celebration of things that happen culturally around the world. This is a collection that I reviewed also. And so he picks themes and really focuses on the themes from collection to collection. But he does, you can see signatures with the streetwear. He always has like varsity jackets, bomber jackets. His tailoring looks a certain way. The slimline lapels. He has some very instinctive things that we see every single season. We know we're going to get the P9 Speedies. We know they're going to be in crazy colors. We know he likes the soft leather. So at this point, even with the new collection, I already knew what to expect because it's like, I know what Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton is. I know what it represents. I know who the customer is. It makes sense. Someone say, this collection got so much hate. How can I see someone say Pharrell needs to stop creating for himself? Yeah, that is something what people have said, right? That Pharrell creates for himself because he creates garments that look like the kind of thing that he would wear, the kind of things that he would put in his wardrobe, right? I've heard that as a critique of Pharrell, which is true. I definitely think it's true. I think with Pharrell, and I guess it's good to have this conversation actually, I think with Pharrell, you have to judge designers based on what exactly are their goals or what exactly are they trying to achieve. I think with Pharrell, the reason they hired him is one, he's famous. Two, they're trying to tap into his audience. But then three, they think that he can create garments that appeal to the masses, which is what Louis Vuitton wants because they're trying to sell as much as possible. They're trying to make billions and billions every year. So considering that's his job, that's why you're going to, with Pharrell, we're going to get these ultra commercial, collections. I am not expecting Pharrell to give us, pattern manipulation and, show us how he does the bias cut and all these things. That's not what I'm expecting from Pharrell. Pharrell is not that kind of designer or that level of designer. And once you forget about that and see it for what it is, you can start to appreciate certain pieces. But I think if we're having a conversation, is Pharrell like a revolutionary designer? Then the answer very quickly is no. Pharrell is not necessarily bringing anything remotely new to the table. I think Pharrell takes things that he is interested in and inspired by and makes very good versions of those. But I wouldn't really see Pharrell as, this guy is like 10 years from now, people are going to be studying Pharrell's designs. No, no one is going to be studying Pharrell's designs 20 years from now. The conversation we will have is what Pharrell's time at Louis Vuitton meant culturally, and what did that do for the culture, and how did that change the face of fashion? Those are the conversations we are definitely going to be having. I think they went for Pharrell because they saw how Virgil worked, and they wanted someone who had the cultural cachet that could continue the success. Yes, of course. And that's why even when you think of a lot of the other designers that were linked with Louis Vuitton at the time, most of them weren't famous like Pharrell. Virgil Abloh is actually one of the few, and we've had this conversation on this channel before, Virgil Abloh is one of the few celebrity designers at that time. There were very few designers that are more famous than fashion. There are certain designers, like if I ask my mum, do you know who this person is, and she knows, then I know this person, like their fame transcends fashion. My mum knew who Virgil Abloh was. My mum doesn't know who like Phoebe Philo is. My mum doesn't know who, I'm trying to think of like another famous designer but isn't famous outside of fashion. I'm trying to think without singling out too many people. But yeah, like Phoebe Philo, my mum doesn't know who that is. A lot of these people are famous in fashion, but outside, they're not really celebrity designers. So they needed someone of the same name to keep the same buzz around the brand. Yeah, I think when it comes to Pharrell Williams, you start to see certain codes and you start to see certain things that he's been doing over and over again. I got to say the accessories here are nice. Yeah, I think when it comes to Pharrell Williams, and I say this all the time, every single time, he makes very good accessories. Whether that's the belts, the sunglasses, the bags, especially the bags, the hats, sometimes the footwear. Although I wasn't the biggest fan of the footwear in this collection, but in past collections, the shoes, the boots, I've been a really big fan. But this collection, yeah, the footwear definitely wasn't for me. Definitely wasn't. Dr. G says the black crocodile one was directly ripped from the last season. Literally, it was only brown before. Yeah, that's what I mean by, that's why that kimono piece was very interesting, because I think that Pharrell's, when it comes to design, and this is why obviously we say Pharrell's not the most revolutionary designer, I don't think he has that much range, which is why he ends up just doing the same thing every season, but through the lens of an idea. So sometimes the idea might be camouflage. Sometimes that idea might be nautical inspiration. Sometimes it might be football. Sometimes it might be, what other collection has he done? It might be Western inspired, but it's still the same look. And I don't think that's good or bad. I mean, many designers have a very distinctive aesthetic. I guess what would make Pharrell's aesthetic more of an issue is the fact that his aesthetic is not based on complicated pattern making. So a good example of that would be Yohji Yamamoto has a very aesthetic look, but that look is hard to achieve because you have to actually be like good at tailoring, and you need to be able to manipulate patterns to even come up with a silhouette that's that unique. Same thing with Rick Owens. Rick Owens, we can see his stuff from a mile away. That's Rick. He does the same thing damn near every season. But to get to that kind of look, it needs complicated pattern making to get there. With the silhouettes that Pharrell Williams does, they are kind of basic. He'll like change the lapel, but there's nothing about the shapes that's necessarily interesting or complicated. They do look like run-of-the-mill silhouettes. Chloe Rice says, a lot of designs that come down the runway will be repeats or iterations of previous seasons that were hits, especially basics. Yeah, sometimes, although I do think with Pharrell Williams, it does seem like he does bring, like, let's say 70% of ideas from the past collection to the new one. So it is quite a lot. Keith says, I love how out of all the major luxury brands, LV has a recognizable cut with its menswear tailoring, and the varsity jackets are just unmatched. I think that was started from Virgil Abloh though, because a lot of the cuts that I see Pharrell Williams use are very much like Virgil Abloh kind of things, right? It just looks very Virgil Abloh, like the wider silhouette trousers, the bomber jackets with very intricate details. That's very, very much Virgil. I think Where Pharrell Williams shines, once again, like I said, is the accessories, because I think Pharrell Williams designs better accessories than Virgil Abloh, for sure. But clothing wise, I think Virgil Abloh's clothing was way better than Pharrell Williams. Like, way, way, way better. Yeah, as far as accessories, I would agree, and I'm pretty sure it's selling a whole lot. Oh yeah, for sure. Valenci Baddy says, I like the music soundtrack they use. Yeah, to be honest, every single show that Pharrell does, I really, really like the soundtrack. I mean, it's Pharrell, of course. Like, who has better music taste than Pharrell? Like, Pharrell is one of the greatest producers of all time. Like, his taste in music is unmatched. His also range and understanding of music is unmatched. And to me, Pharrell Williams will definitely be like one of the most stylish men on the planet. That's something I've always believed. And I've always just thought this guy's so fly. Yeah, Alyssa, this is facts. Didn't he produce 30% of music on the radio? So I'm not sure about the radio, but I remember reading one stat where it was like, when you looked at like the hip hop and R&B charts, I think it was like a good percentage, maybe 40% of all the music on the R&B and hip hop charts were produced by the Neptunes. That is insane. I don't think anyone has ever had a run like that since. Do you think the friendship was just a means of changing the designs and details they were using without seeming out of ideas, or it was a concept always intentional? I mean, once again, Pharrell is not Lee McQueen, right? Pharrell's ideas are not going to come from he's not J.W. Anderson. They aren't going to come from very abstract places. So I don't necessarily think that he was using the friendship as a means of just changing the design so it can continue to be unique. I don't think that's what it is. I just think genuinely he just thought, since we're making a collection together, why don't we use it as a chance to talk about themes of nostalgia and talk about our relationship and things that we've seen and designed growing up over the years. Something when I think of the success of Pharrell's accessories and the speedies that he designs, it always reminds me of his grills. Because Pharrell is really famous for having some of the most interesting grills, and like he has these really colorful iterations of grills and stuff. And I'm like, I wonder if like some of the colors of his speedy bags are inspired by the colors that he likes and the colors that he has with his custom accessories, not just grills, but like chains and stuff. I'm always like, that's interesting to draw parallels between those two things. So yeah, going into this collection, like I said, Pharrell Williams worked with Nigo in this collection. When you look at this collection, it's kind of inspired by, of course, the collaborative relationship that Nigo and Pharrell Williams have had over the years. And you can see through this collection, there's an interplay between the past and the present, how they dress and how they used to dress, their interest before and their interest now. That's why there's a mixture of the kind of Y2K streetwear that is very reminiscent of Nigo's era of Bape in this collection, but then you also see this more sharp tailoring that interests the likes of Pharrell Williams and Nigo is, more into right now. So you can start to see that. That's the first thing that when I looked at this collection, I noticed a lot of callbacks to streetwear things that we would associate with Nigo's Bape period, but then also tailoring and the kind of stuff that we associate with Nigo at Kenzo and Pharrell Williams designing at Louis Vuitton nowadays, the more like, sartorial looking aesthetic. So that's the first thing that I thought was really interesting. Of course, because they are playing with the interplay of their relationship, we start to see a lot of odes in this collection, right? So when you look at this collection, you see a lot of pink. Why is there a lot of pink? That's a sort of a reference to the cherry blossom, the sakura, which is, of course, one of the national flowers of Japan. That's paying homage to Japan. That's paying homage to Nigo's background, right? That's why it was a big fixture in this collection. It's also very interesting because that's also a big fixture in the Murakami collab. Like the cherry blossom Murakami bags are all the rage. And if you think of this year, what have people been talking about when it comes to Louis Vuitton? Everyone's been talking about the Murakami collab. So it's very interesting that you can draw parallels to those two things. That's very, very interesting. We also see other aspects that is an ode to their collaborative effort. You see a lot of Japanese techniques, especially with the denim. Like they utilized, kasuri weaving, where it's kind of like a Japanese technique where fabric has been woven with fibers dyed specifically so they can create a pattern. So instead of doing like a print you actually weave in the pattern using the dyes from the threads into the garment itself, which is really interesting and really cool. So you can see up close when you look at the garments up close. And I had one of my friends who was actually at the show that sent me a few up close pictures. Some of the techniques used are actually really, really interesting, right? Here we're seeing on the screen the typical Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton show things like someone pushing luggage. We see this all the time. Dr. Jean says, felt like them saying they're nearly identical souls, being a reference to their friendship was a reach and sensational. I think because this collection really is about their friendship, to be honest, like here we see some more pink, once again, a reference to Sakura. We've even seen a Speedy in the same color. I think most people are going to do that, right? Everything we're going to say, oh my God, that vest is like an ode to their relationship. I think overall it is, of course. Like here, this is more of like we're getting the Bape, like baggy denim, colorful bombers. This is literally Bape. So it's there, but I do think that, yes, some things were reaches for sure. Some things were definitely reaches. That's actually crazy. But yeah, there were many more odes to their relationship. Of course, like as you can see on the back of that jacket, there's a print that has an outline of Pharrell's face and Nigo's face. And there's the print that they're calling the Friends print, but it's spelled PHRIENDS print, right? The Friends print. It's like if you didn't understand what the whole point of this collection was, you shall now understand it. Also, you see some Japanese lettering there. So what they've done is they've written Louis Vuitton. They've also written lovers in English and Japanese on certain pieces. So when you see Japanese characters, it either means Louis Vuitton or it means lovers. So that's obviously an ode to Nigo once again. I've already explained why there's so much pink in this collection. This fisheye lens thing is so weird. Do you know what this reminds me of? Like all the different crazy angles. This reminds me of the Adi Slimane Celine collections where there's just 5 million angles and you're like trying to focus on the clothing. And before you can even take in the clothes, the angle changes completely. This, let me just bring that back because that was one of my favorite pieces. That sort of like kimono style. It kind of looks like a leather. It's kind of like, that's a fusion and a merging of like a biker jacket and a kimono, which is really cool. And it looks like it's been aged. It has like a nice like aged look. There's the patina where you would move. So like at the bottom, at the elbow, on the shoulder. That's really cool. That was one of the pieces that I found interesting in this collection because I feel like a lot of the other pieces, we've seen this from Pharrell every season. We've seen the bomber jackets. We've seen, the tailoring that Pharrell likes to do. Of course, like I said, this silhouette, like here, we're seeing these Y2K baggy Bape style shorts that we're used to seeing from the past. But all in all, I do find it wholesome, this sort of coming together of their interests and this highest level of fashion bromance designing this collection together at Louis Vuitton. It's cool. There were also a lot of kickbacks to Japanese culture, the origami bag. There was a story I read in their interview in Vogue that apparently recently when they decided to make collaborative Louis Vuitton collection, they went fishing in Japan and they actually caught a lobster when they were together. So you might see a few lobster prints on the garments, lobster embroidered in certain places. That's kind of like one of those little nuggets to their relationship that people might catch when you look at the collection. So that's kind of what the point of it was. What I do enjoy about Pharrell Williams, and I really appreciate about him, is how he celebrates his team and always talks about his team. Because we know, if you work in fashion, you know that creative directors don't come up with all the ideas. They don't, especially at the bigger brands. Sometimes interns come with ideas that creative directors are like, that's interesting, let me develop that. Sometimes their head of menswear, their head of accessories might come with a design that gets developed. So it is kind of weird that we attribute loads of work to just one person when these are ideas that are coming from like maybe 20 people or 30 people. So I always appreciate, this is something that Martin Margiela did himself, of course. It's like always referring to his team as we. It's not just I. I like that. And Pharrell Williams has kind of carried that along where at the end of his shows, he always shows appreciation to his team and makes sure that they get visibility. I like that. I very much like that. Dolce Jean says, I think the friendship being used as a driving force for the theme of this collection is a win for everyone involved, especially LVMH. Good story and direct relation to Asia. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, those are the customers that they want, right? Asia is the biggest customer base for Louis Vuitton. So if anything, they're gunning for that. They're gunning for that customer base. Pharrell is a humble man. Yeah, he definitely gives me humble vibes. He seems like a very wholesome person, for sure. Like, extremely wholesome. Let's look at some of the details from the collection. Let's look closer. Of course, we can see the footwear. It's kind of got this sort of damier print at the bottom too, which is kind of cool. Of course, Pharrell Speedy with the pink color in reference to Sakura, which I think, you know what? This might be a hot take, but I don't know why when people design Japanese collections, or let's say people do collaborations with Japanese designers, why do they always go for like the lowest hanging fruit? It's like everything's going to be pink because cherry blossoms are like the national flower of Japan. So we're going to show that we appreciate Japanese culture by just putting pink on everything. It's like, why? That Japanese culture is so detailed and so vast and so varied and so layered. Why does everyone always come to the same conclusion of, yep, pink? Why is that where we always end up? I don't know. I just find it strange all the time. You got these Louis Vuitton bags, which you've seen. This is also kind of like a Balenciaga thing where you take something like shopping bags, the concept of it, and then you make it into an actual desirable bag. You use thick leather, you use really nice handles, put some hardware inside, add a lining. Yeah, this is something that Demna does at Blogger a lot. But I've seen a lot of other designers do that too. Yeah, even now we're seeing the pink tie, same thing. Cool fabric. That looks like mohair. That's a cool fabric for a tie. It's going to be hard to maintain. Good luck. The dry cleaner, when you give it to the dry cleaner, is going to be like, what? It's really cool. Yeah, this is the lobster that I was talking about. This is, of course, an ode to Pharrell Williams and Nigo. The fact that Pharrell Williams visited Nigo in Japan and they went fishing and they caught a lobster. And it was during that conversation that they decided they wanted to have a collection and, collaborate on a collection at Louis Vuitton. So we're gonna see a lot of, lobsters and things like that across the collection. Yeah, it is very cliche. It is very cliche, to be honest. Even like the color of the set also, like, look, it's kind of like this sort of pinky. It's just, why? Why is it always the lowest hanging fruit? Why? The Marc Jacobs graffiti references felt out of place. Yeah. Was it like Steven Sprouse, right? Those collections. For guys that don't know, I'll show you guys quickly. So Steven Sprouse is an American artist and one of the most famous. I mean, Marc Jacobs had a lot of famous collaborations when he was at Louis Vuitton. I mean, his time at Louis Vuitton was iconic. That's why they're rehashing everything that Marc Jacobs did, because a lot of these brands are out of ideas. But anyway, Steven Sprouse had a collaboration with Louis Vuitton with this like sort of graffiti print all over kind of thing that went crazy when it first released. Like, people went insane over this stuff. And since then, a lot of designers have kind of rehashed it and stuff. And, we saw Pharrell Williams kind of have a reference to that in this collection, in this new collection. Keith also said, let me see what Keith is saying. I thought it was Steven Sprouse too, but apparently Nigo did those pieces in his brands too. I'm very sure he was. I mean, graffiti text is not like a super unique thing. Marc Jacobs doesn't have a monopoly on graffiti, neither does Steven Sprouse. But when you think of Louis Vuitton, the history, of course, especially in the color and the way it was done, it looks very much like a Steven Sprouse collab. But graffiti in general and, putting graffiti text on clothing is not that unique. But when we talk about the history of Louis Vuitton and stuff like that, then yes, it's part of the history of the brand. But anyway, going further, you can see more of the techniques. And this is also a technique that was used in collaboration between Virgil Abloh and Nigo. So it's cool to see them bring that back. Let's see. These kind of like really baggy shorts that are an ode back to the Y2K times. You even see a little teddy bear. I'm not the biggest fan of it. And the footwear, I'm just not the biggest fan at all. Here we have the Friends print. Once again, we have an overline of Pharrell and, of course, Nigo. We also saw a lot of references. We will see them eventually, but the cap that Nigo likes to wear, they had a version of that on the runway too. Also, I was trying to think when I saw these shoes, is that like a Nike collab? Is this like a Nike Cortez? Is that what that is? Interesting. I wonder if images of those came out, like a Hypebeast or something, Hypebeast sneakers. What do you think it will take for brands to achieve their own authentic image again? Brands just have to be open to take risks. unless they take risks, it will just be everything will look the same. Because if you think about it this way, if you're trying to make more money, then your clothing has to be more and more mass appealing. And then if your clothing is more and more mass appealing, then it looks like everything else. So they just have to be open to taking more risks. But I don't think that will ever happen because as much as we praise Marc Jacobs for everything that he did at Louis Vuitton, I do think that his time at Louis Vuitton was iconic. You also have to add the context of the fact that Louis Vuitton was not as big of a brand. So Marc Jacobs had more freedom to do things because it was kind of uncharted territory, like doing ready to wear at Louis Vuitton. So he almost had the ability to just do what he wanted. There wasn't the same, there was pressure, of course, but there wasn't the same financial pressure that there would be now to keep growing. And because it was kind of untapped, it's easier to grow when you haven't done something where versus where Pharrell and Louis Vuitton are now, where they've reached the heights of luxury and you're still trying to top that. What did they? Okay, that's interesting. We've got the beading on the zipper, some really cool details. Something I will give, the credit I'll give to Pharrell Williams is that when you look at his garments up close, they do always have really interesting details. But of course, that is to be expected. I mean, look at the atelier that he's using. You would expect those kind of things, right? This, once again, is what I'm talking about, where Pharrell Williams really likes the soft leather. Because this trunk is sort of like little trunk bag. It's supposed to be rigid. It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to be able to squeeze it like that. But across Pharrell Williams bags, he likes using soft leather. It's very interesting that he doesn't like structure because those things in bags are very hit or miss. There are many people that cannot stand the fact that Pharrell Williams makes these structureless bags, and then there are people like me that absolutely love it. So yeah, it's interesting that he does that. Of course, we have someone pushing LV trunks. We always get this in every season. It's not really much there. And also, do you know something I've noticed? Something really interesting, and I'm going to show you actually after about these collections, is that the people that push these trunks always wear workwear. I wonder why he does that. Like, they're clearly wearing like a sort of workwear vest, workers' gloves, like workwear sort of trousers, pushing it. With even like the cap looks very like Carharty. Even the way the logo is done kind of looks like Carhartt. It's very interesting. Let me see some of the past. Let me look at some of the past collections because he does that all the time. It's just something I've noticed in passing. This is from the Western inspired collection, Fall Winter 2024 menswear. Once again, look. So the person pushing the trunks is wearing sort of like this workwear jacket that looks exactly like a Carhartt ripoff. Very interesting that he does that. I hope he talks about it one time, like what exactly. Obviously, we know what it is. It's kind of like workers pushing something. What I get it, but I wonder if there's like a deeper meaning to it or a deeper reason why he always does that. Yeah, some more of these techniques. Some more of the same old tailoring we get from Pharrell Williams. I wonder if this piece is going to sell. I can see a lot of rappers buying this piece. And considering a lot of rappers were at the show, I'm sure a lot of rappers are looking at that like, yeah, I finna buy that. Here we have some more Friends prints. We've got Nigo with his typical hat. We've got Pharrell Williams with his hair. Then we have, yeah, so they're just putting all the different types of hats that they wear. Interesting. And then the gloves. Okay. I wonder if they told... I always wonder these things. I'm weird like that. So I wonder if Pharrell Williams specifically told models to crush the bags and scrunch them up in that way to emphasize that he's using soft leather. Or if, just to hold... Just by holding the bag, they kind of just ended up doing that? Or is that a very deliberate thing? Like, did he tell the models to emphasize squeezing the bag so that people know that you can do that with the bags? Interesting. Okay, now we have some more cherry blossom inspired colors. Once again, another workwear look with the people pushing and workwear gloves. These gloves have the Friends print. Imagine, I always wonder, like, are people going to buy these gloves and start gardening with their Louis Vuitton gloves with the Friends print? I always wonder that. Let's keep going, guys. Okay, some really cool bag detailing. Let's see. Those bags, we've seen those in so many different iterations. Let's see what he's done with the belts this season. Okay, just kind of like gold and then the same technique on the belt. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Kind of cool. The beanies, those are probably going to do really well. I can see a lot of those selling really well. Sunglasses, Damier print on the bags. And the really small speedies with the Friends print. I guess these will become collectible items in a sense that if they never do this kind of print again, it's kind of like a collector's thing. Like, oh, do you remember that collection in collaboration with Nigo that Pharrell Williams did for Louis Vuitton where they had that Friends print? But I don't know if I want Pharrell Williams' face plastered on my bags. I don't really know if I want that, to be honest. I'm trying to decide if I like it or not. But I do like, in general, I like Pharrell Williams bags in general. Some more Sakura with a damier print cardigan. It's cool. I mean, it's really cool. And I'm sure the details look really nice. I can see, like, this is the kind of thing that Shai Gilgeous Alexander would wear. I can see him buying this. He probably put in an order for that sweater, actually. I'm very sure he did. And I'm not sure if he was at the show, but he would definitely get an invite, so he might have even been at the show. That's the kind of stuff he would wear. Some more varsity jackets, some more trunks, varsity. Let's skip past this once again. I think I understand why the color is that. We get it, Sakura, but I think it's overdone. I think they overdid it in this collection with the colors. Like, they should have used a wider range of colors and just like plaster everything in pink. Like, we get it. It's homage to Japan, but I just think they overdid it. A lot of these looks are definitely NBA tunnel walk drip. Yeah, that's what I was thinking to myself. The shoes are a nod to his skateboard P era. Right, someone said most of the Spurs players were at the show. Probably because of Wemby, to be honest. Because Wemby is like one of the faces of Louis Vuitton menswear, which is also interesting. Do you know what I find weird about Wemby? Let's go on his Instagram and see what's on his Instagram before we go through the looks. It's weird having an ambassador for your brand be someone that wears the size of clothing that no one can wear. Like, yeah, he's literally one of the ambassadors of Louis Vuitton right now. That's why he was sat right beside Bernard Arnault. I wonder if Bernard Arnault watches basketball, and more specifically, if he watches like Wemby games. He's like, let me see if we are getting our money's worth. We have to make sure that the performances are on point. But yeah, Wemby is like 7'5" or something. It's just strange. Like, all this stuff is definitely custom made. It's just interesting that they decided to have an ambassador that literally wears the size that no one can buy. And if you are Wemby's height, like you are 7'5", Louis Vuitton are not going to make custom garments for you. You're just not going to find your size. It's interesting. I find it fascinating that they chose him of all people. Anyway, moving on, we have these sort of Carhartt workwear inspired pieces in the signature pink that I'm starting to get tired of. Let's see some different, even the buttons are pink. Like, we get it. At this point, we understand. The technique used in making this jacket looks really interesting, actually. Like this denim, this is really cool. It might not even be denim, but that's actually really cool, to be honest. But the pink, like, we get it. Like, even the buttons at the sleeves are pink. Gosh, we see another iteration of the lobster as well. We get it. I think most people don't like the clothes, but would buy the accessories. Yeah, I think that's the case with most brands anyway. Most brands, you know, people just buy accessories. That's what sells. This is what we were talking about with sort of like the Steven Sprouse inspired graffiti all over pieces on the beanie, on the jackets. Oh my God, not the... Guys, do you get the point of the collection now? Do you understand where the inspiration of this collection is coming from, guys? Golly, how much pink? They gave us pink in every way possible. Jeez, even the pink trunk. Jeez. With that camouflage print that Pharrell Williams has made his own. I feel like I'm warming to that camouflage print. With the first collection, I did not like it. I think it works better in other colors than the camo color. I think the camo color just makes that print look really odd. Okay, let's just skip past because now we're starting to see the same things in different colors. Let's stop when we see something interesting. Okay, the bags, the same thing. That's probably going to sell, to be honest. Okay, moving on. The varsity, the workwear boots. This was one of the pieces that I liked. It's kind of like kimono, biker jacket sort of thing going on. I also like the silhouette cropped in a body. I say this all the time. This shape of outerwear works the best for me because I have a very small torso. So when I wear jackets that are cropped in a body, it actually fits me perfect and makes my proportions look really good. And even though I have really long legs, it makes my legs look even longer, which looks nice visually. So I like this piece. This is one of my favorite pieces from the collection, actually, funny enough. This is also really cool. The collar is also really cool. This is like that, like, Indian type collar. It's like the Nehru. I think it's called a Nehru collar. That's really cool. Some more lobsters. In case you didn't know that Pharrell Williams and Nigo caught a lobster when they went fishing, here you go, some more lobster. To be fair though, I wouldn't mind a lobster charm from Louis Vuitton. That could be cool. Since bag charms are all the rage right now, it's like the biggest trend. They should do a few like little lobster charms. Will I be buying anything? No, because I'm not rich. I do not have money for Louis Vuitton ready to wear. But if I was, if say I was rich in an alternate universe, I would get the kimono thing. What else would I get? If they were selling lobster charms, I would get like a lobster charm and put it on whatever bag I have. Also, it isn't a Nike collab. Here we go. We have a different angle. It's actually just the Louis Vuitton version of a Nike Cortez. Interesting. I don't know why. Every time I look at Cortez or a Cortez shape, I always think of Kendrick Lamar. I don't know why in my head I just associate that with Kendrick Lamar. Now we've got some more. Just in case you didn't know about the lobsters, guys, we've got some more. Just in case you didn't know about the lobsters, guys, we even put it on the knitwear. Just in case you weren't aware, we shall make you aware. Just in case you didn't know that there's a Friends print with Nigo and Pharrell. We put them on more pieces for you guys. Pharrell Williams does like experimenting with camo. I appreciate it. I'm not the fan of the camo in this collection. However, I'm always a sucker for experimentation. So any designer that I see experimenting in interesting ways, I support it. Even if, I don't necessarily like it. At the end of the day, I'm not even an LV customer. So long as the customers like it, happy days. Got some more Pharrell Friends print. Yeah, we're going to skip these looks. I think this was a bit too more of the same. This is kind of interesting. I also like the position of the zip. That's cool. I wonder if, because politically the world is going really conservative, and there are all these men that are like so like, oh my god, like everything's so feminine, like men painting their nails up, men are being feminized. I wonder if they're gonna have a fit when they see this collection and see like the really cool design, like nail designs on the men. I wonder if they're going to have a seizure. I think the nail designs that I've noticed across this collection are really cool. They're really interesting. Okay, let's go on. Oh my god. Now we just have this is cool. I think this is the most interesting iteration of the lobster. It's an actual lobster bag. That's cool. That's really, really cool. But yeah, they don't, and that's the issue I have with Pharrell sometimes. I think, not to say Pharrell doesn't have ideas, but it's just too low-hanging fruit. Like, he's like, okay, we caught a lobster, so now we're going to put a lobster on 50 looks. Okay, I'm inspired by Japanese culture, and I want to give an ode to Japanese culture and just Nigo himself, because Nigo used that shade of pink because it was inspired by cherry blossom, so it makes sense. But it's like, that amount of looks being pink, it's almost like you have to have more ideas in a collection than just one idea put on 60 looks, on 60 different pieces. Maybe not looks, but 60 different pieces. It's just like, it's a bit much. This whole, shopping bag made desirable, made with very good materials, an idea we've seen multiple times. Okay, that's not interesting at all. So Chico all over the gaffer, damier print overlord. That's what we should start calling for. I like some of his damier prints, to be honest. If I just had more money, then maybe not sense, but if I just had stupid money, I would get one of the damier pieces to support Pharrell. We've got the fake Nike Cortez once again in Louis Vuitton. The only thing though, even though these are like Nike Cortez ripoffs, they're obviously probably going to be made a million times better than Nike Cortez, which is expected because they're probably going to cost $1,000. So if they aren't made of like full leather, and if the lining isn't something sensational, I will be very disappointed. This is really cool. They've got different charms. Obviously, the typical like lovers on it, Louis Vuitton, different flowers, Pharrell speedy bag in blue. Let's see, is there going to be a lobster? Is there a lobster? Is there a lobster? A guitar. Let's see, like a can. Yep, a lobster. I knew it. Of course, there's a lobster. This is cool though. This is actually really cool. This is like, because Pharrell obviously likes the hardware with Louis Vuitton, the padlocks and stuff. This just feels like Nigo and Pharrell match, engineered by Louis Vuitton. Maybe that's dumb, but it's what I'm surmising from this. I mean, I wouldn't say that's dumb. I think that is kind of true because it is kind of typically what Pharrell Williams and Nigo do mashed into one collection. So if you are a fan of Nigo or a fan of Pharrell, or you followed any of their work for any considerable amount of time, you're like, oh, I've already seen this whole collection already. A lobster again. A lobster again. Surely, this is what confuses me, right? Surely, there are so many more things in Japan to reference. And there's so many more things from their own personal friendship, like between Nigo and Pharrell, to reference that means that they don't have to put a lobster or the Friends print across every bag. Surely there's some like other interesting things that you can print, right? This is really cool. I wonder what this is made of because you know every season Pharrell does that crazy bag that's limited to like 5 creations and it'll be made of like real gold and like whatever and it's like when he did that Millionaire bag. I wonder if this is like this collection's version of that because this looks like it would be really expensive. Let's see. You even got the pink sunglasses to match. Okay. I mean, I don't mind the Japanese characters and stuff that say lovers and Louis Vuitton. I think it's kind of cool. It also becomes a collector's thing because they're probably only going to do that once, at least in Pharrell's tenure at Louis Vuitton. So that's kind of like a cool thing to own, I guess. This is kind of cool. The gradient sort of croc print thing going on. That's cool. This is too much going on. I don't know. Lovers on the side here. It says Louis Vuitton on the bottom. It says Louis Vuitton around here. It has the LV logo. It has Pharrell Nigo's face. That's just too much going on. That's just a bit much. Some more. Okay. Now we get a back version of these vests. Equip with the Friends logo. So that's what I mean. I mean, looking at the collection, all in all, I think it's solid in the sense that there's a lot of things that I think people will wear and will be desirable for people to wear. I think my major issue with Pharrell is he needs to develop his ideas a bit further. His ideas are a bit too basic. It's like we caught a lobster, so we're going to put lobster printed on every single bag. You know, Japan has cherry blossom, so we're going to make every look pink. You just need to have better ideas than that. But in terms of like desirable silhouettes, are people going to buy this? Yes. Do I think Pharrell designed sensational bags in collaboration with whoever is the head of accessories at Louis Vuitton? Yes. I think Pharrell Williams has done wonders for men wearing bags, especially in the luxury space. I think a lot of credit can be given to him. So, yeah, I think the stuff he makes is cool, but I just think his ideas sometimes are really, really basic, extremely basic. And I think he just needs to develop his ideas a bit more. I think more can be done. I can see that too. The human-made influence is strong. The human-made influence is why Micah and I, when we review a lot of Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton shows, we say that it looks like this, like Nigo consulted on this Louis Vuitton collection. I felt that way with every single Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton collection, which is only natural because that is Pharrell Williams worked with Nigo for years. So they kind of would think the same in a way because they work closely with each other for so long on so many different brands. So it's only natural that that would happen.